Where did I put those? So stupid. Gosh dang it. Why do I do this? Man, that makes me mad. Anyway, okay. Hey there, PT37 here. So today, I'm going to talk to you about 357 Magnum. So I loaded up some of these 158 Hornady XTPs, and my goal with these is to try and duplicate what I would consider the gold standard 357 Magnum load. What I consider the gold standard and what used to be the standard is a 158 grain cast bullet going 1500 feet per second out of a 6-inch barrel. For my test gun, it's going to be the Ruger GP100 6-inch, and this is going to be my test gun for this. So I've killed a deer with this successfully, done a pretty good job. But those loads was a 158 XTP with Winchester 296. So, and I had a pretty hefty load. I was like well over a grain on the Hornady book listed max. I never had a chronograph for a while. I chronographed those loads. I was only getting 1350 feet per second out of those, which was plenty enough to kill a deer, but still, I'm like, that's not what I thought it was. So now that I got a chronograph and stuff, I can glean stuff like this. So what I decided to try, I bought some Hodgdon Lil Gun. If you look on Hodgdon's website, the Reloading Data Center, they got a real similar velocity with this compared to H110, but the interesting note is, or 296, H110, use those interchangeably. But anyway, they had a lot less pressure with it, which is really interesting. So like the pressure for the max H110 load was like around 40,000 PSI, give or take. And this was like 23,000. It was like almost half. I'm not saying you should push it past the listed max, but I think you could if you wanted to, because the pressure is so much less. It's an interesting powder. I'm just trying it out. So my goal is, like I said, to get 1500 feet per second out of my 6-inch revolver. But also, I recently picked up this Henry Model X. Oh, how well. Let's get in the frame there. But I got this Model X because I got a 9mm rugged Obsidian 9 suppressor. So I wanted this to try it out on. It's fantastic. If you got a 9mm suppressor, just buy it. Just don't even hesitate, just buy it. You'll love it. So I'd like to take this deer hunting along with my revolver, try to kill another deer with a revolver. So, but I want to see how they do out of the rifle too. So I loaded 5 of each, and I want to shoot 5 out of the revolver, see what I get, shoot 5 out of this, and my goal is 1500 feet per second. I loaded the Hodgdon Reloading Data Center Max, which I believe is 18 grains. Double check for yourself, but I just loaded the max because I've shot several max loads out of this Ruger. I know it really well, so I know it'll handle it. And your gun, especially if you're new to the gun, work up to that. Don't just start there. Like I said, I know my gun really well, and also it's Ruger, so I mean, I'm not even going to shoot them out of my Python up here. I think it would handle it, but I don't want to beat that thing up because I got a Ruger here. Might as well beat it up. So it's kind of my workhorse 357, and that one's my pretty 357. I'm going to chrono them both out of both guns, and or both. I want to chrono both guns with that exact load, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so I totally forgot to record me shooting the GP100. So I will just talk about the velocities later in the video and put them up behind me. But here is the first shot from the GP100 into ballistic gel. The gel is 10 yards away. Alright, and here is the rifle. So I also had a Hornady XTP flat point that I decided to load and shoot into the gel, see how it does. It's kind of hard to tell. This gel's a little wavy from shipping, but this wound track right here is from the GP100 load. It comes all the way. Yes, I shot some other stuff in here, but that is the bullet. It's facing backwards right there, and it went about 23 3/4 inches. So, and it looks like it expanded pretty nicely. Okay. So the next one I want to show you is this one right here. Wow, look at that. I don't know how well you can tell, but it's right here. It looks like it shed some weight. And this was the 158 XTP out of the rifle. So it went right here. Look, that dude really peeled back. Now this one, or that is not, that's a 10 millimeter, so different video. Anyway, so this lower wound channel, this top one is from the regular XTP out of the rifle. This bottom one looks virtually identical. Comes in, really spiders out. Yeah, it looks virtually identical, but you get a little bit more penetration. So this is a 158 XTP flat point. So this one actually went, looks like 17 and 5/8 ish inches. So I will dig all those out and give you weight retention and expansion numbers on those. I crunched the chronograph numbers, so I want to go over the chronograph data first, and then I will go over the results of the bullets in the ballistic gel. First, I'll do the GP100. I'll stick it up here. So the average of 5 shots over the chronograph at approximately 12 feet was 1365, standard deviation of 18, and extreme spread of 53. So came a little short of my 1500 feet per second goal, but it's right on par with the other loads I was telling you about earlier in the video with my 296. So now with the Henry, I was really impressed with them out of the Henry. It was my first time shooting, chronographing anything out of that rifle, so I was surprised at how much it picked up out of that. But my average was 1908 feet per second, standard deviation of 10, an extreme spread of 25. So I'm really happy with that, and out of both guns. So now I'll move on to the results of the ballistic gel. I wrote it all down on a little piece of paper. So anyway, here's the bullet. This is out of the GP100. Okay, so I'll stick all this up behind me again, but the impact velocity was 1364 feet per second. Penetrated 23 3/4 inches in the gel. The widest point is 0.549 inches, up from 0.357, and the weight retention was 143.8. So overall, pretty good performance out of this. Now for the XTP out of the rifle. Pretty gnarly peel back there, but that was a lot more velocity. So the impact velocity of this round was 1898, and these were shot from 10 yards. So this is 10 yards in the gel. So the retained weight was 129.5, and it penetrated 15.5 inches. And if you count that pedal, the expansion was 1.042. So without the pedal, I'd say it's in the 0.6 range. It's kind of hard to measure it because there's another pedal kind of sticking out there too. So, but it's a good mushroom. Okay, and this was the flat point I ended up loading that I had. In case you haven't seen these, so here's the box. It's the Hornady. It's XTP or the FP XTP. So I'll take them out of here and show you what they look like. So here's a loaded XTP round, 158 grain. And here's the Hornady flat point XTP. So the bullet's virtually the same. It's just, from what I understand, it's supposed to be a little bit tougher for lever guns or to aid in feeding. So it is a little bit tougher bullet. So the XTP flat point, for some reason my velocity was way higher with this round. So I don't know. I use the same powder charge. I don't know if it's just a bullet variation or if I just had a high velocity reading. But the impact velocity of this round was 1970 feet per second, so that was higher than my average with the standard XTPs. But it penetrated 17 5/8 inches into the gel. The retained weight was 131.2, and the expansion was 0.621. So overall, I'm really happy with the performance. I mean, it wasn't, the velocity wasn't quite what I was hoping it to be, but it's still definitely a Magnum. It still definitely performed good. So out of the Ruger, I had great penetration. and had great expansion, you know, about 1.5 times expansion, give or take. That's what the XTP advertises, I'm pretty sure. So that was about spot on. I'm happy with that. It would definitely feel good taking that deer hunting. And out of the rifle, I wish it'd penetrate a little bit more. I feel good taking that round deer hunting still. I mean, that's still good penetration. I would probably hair towards that flat point just because I got a little bit more penetration out of it. So if I'm hunting deer or similar size game, I definitely want the little bit of added penetration. Now, if I'm just shooting varmints, then I don't think it really matters. Both bullets would have been fine. But like I said, I would like to kind of creep up on velocity. I think I can go beyond the max in both guns if I wanted to, the way that the cases looked and everything. But I don't really have any desire to do so with the rifle, because I'm afraid the bullets would just fragment more or penetrate less with more velocity. So with the rifle, I'm comfortable leaving it how it is. But the handgun, I do want to creep up on that a little bit and see if I can't get that 1500 feet per second. And if I decide to do that, I'll make another video. So interesting note, the performance of the GP100 mimics how the rifle would perform at 175 yards. Put that in other terms, the GP100's performance point blank, or 10 yards away, that's how far I was from the gel, is how the bullet would, that same load would perform out of the rifle from 175 yards away. So very interesting note that even at 175, 200 yards, theoretically, this was according to the Hornady ballistic calculator. I inputted all the bullet information, my average velocity, and barometric temperature and all that stuff. Put everything in there, and at 175 yards away out of this rifle, that load would reach the velocity that the GP100 was getting point blank. So it's good to know that this rifle is capable, you know, if you are, which I don't know if I would really want to take a shot that far, just the way I got the rifle set up. I mean, if I had a big old scope on it, I'd have no problem with it. But if you're capable, then the rifle's definitely capable. Overall, I'm happy with the little gun. I want to keep messing with it. I'd like to, you know, I'm not going to ditch my 296 load, but definitely good to have something else, you know, in case one or the other becomes hard to get. So it's good to have another load worked up, if for no other reason for that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks.